Call this meeting of the House Agricultural and Natural Resources Committee to order. Mr. Kirk, please call the roll.
Representative Cochran. Here. Darby. Here. Halford. Here. Hulsey. Here. Hurt. Potts. Reedy. Here. Shaw. Good work. Chairman Todd. Present. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Are there any personal orders from the members today? I have one. I'd like to just notice that we have some representation from Reelfoot Lake here today with us. Mr. Mike Hayes and his son. I appreciate y'all being here, and hope that you make your way around pretty easily in our building this time. I think it's the first time you're here, so appreciate you being here. If there are no other personal orders, then we'll get started. And we have House Bill 586 by Chairman Marsh before us. Have a motion. Have a motion and a second. Chairman Marsh, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. House Bill 586 is an initiative by Tennessee Wastewater Systems. Tennessee Wastewater Systems is a privately owned, for-profit community wastewater treatment system regulated by the Tennessee Public Utilities Commission. Federal and state law work together to establish revolving loan funds for drinking water and wastewater systems construction and improvements. HB 586 deals with a financing option for wastewater systems, not drinking water, just wastewater. I carried a bill in 2015 through the General Assembly authorizing private water systems such as Tennessee American Water, which operates in Hamilton County, the opportunity to apply to the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation for a loan from the state's drinking water revolving fund. So what I'm here today is to try to do the same thing for the wastewater division, wastewater folks. So it's basically allowing a private company to apply for state revolving loans for wastewater. That's what we're trying to do. I'll answer any question. And Mr. Chairman, I do have an amendment to go on this, if you all accept it today, that I just sent to you all. And only thing it says, for the purpose of this part only. TDEC wanted that in there to make it more plain, so we've agreed to allow that if you all want to do it. If not, appreciate you passing it out today, and I'll put it on next week if that's whatever you want to do.
So this is an untimely filed amendment. Do I have a motion to hear this amendment?
Yes, sir. Motion for it to be heard.
It's drafting code 4191.
Yes, sir. I have that before me. If there are no objections, then we'll vote on amendment number 1. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes, so your amendment goes on House Bill 586. Any other discussion on this bill? We have question called. Without objection, we will vote on House Bill 586. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. House Bill 586 moves on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Next on the calendar, we have House Bill 89. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Whitson, you are recognized on House Bill 89.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, committee. House Bill 89 is an administration bill requested by the good folks at Environment and Conservation to help our local and state and federal law enforcement agencies when needed to protect the legal status of our park rangers, providing support outside state park boundaries. Currently, park rangers are often called upon to provide law enforcement assistance to law enforcement authorities, often in rural areas. This assistance includes operations that park rangers are uniquely qualified to carry out, such as wilderness rescue, search and rescue, swiftwater rescue, and support of searches for fugitives in remote areas. Roughly 80% of requests received by park rangers for assistance from local law enforcement agencies are outside the boundaries of the park. This also covers TDOT criminal environmental investigators to provide support for local law enforcement agencies in specialized investigations of environmental crimes. Mr. Chairman, we need to add an amendment also to this bill.
We have a motion and a second on amendment number 1, and this is drafting code 4087.
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion on the amendment? You're recognized, sir.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This amendment clarifies that park rangers may assist federal, state officials in addition to local officials outside the park when requested to do so. This amendment also removes the language that if the commissioner determines such assistance is necessary, this change is intended to ensure there is no delay in a ranger's ability to respond in an emergency situation. In other words, a park manager could authorize a park ranger to assist in a swift water rescue.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Without objection, we will vote on amendment number 1, drafting code 4087. All in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment goes on House Bill 89. Mr. Chairman, you're recognized.
Without any additional questions, I renew my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Brother Halsey.
In the bill, I was trying to read over it before, it seems like are we establishing new police officers for environmental enforcement?
Can you turn your microphone on, Representative? Thank you.
I'm sorry. Are we establishing a new police position to enforce environmental law or issues?
No, no, sir. What this bill does is just clarifies the language, what they're allowed to do. There are already there's already environmental officers in the department.
There's no new ones. Thank you.
Any more questions? I understood that this was basically codifying what they're already doing. They've been assisting. This just gives them some protection legally when they're doing this.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. And for instance, in some of the more rural counties, like Van Buren counties, there are more park rangers at Falls Creek State Park than there are law enforcement officers in the county.
Okay. Any further discussion? Without objection, we will vote on House Bill 89 as amended. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed by like sign? The ayes have it. House Bill 89 moves on to full.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Next, we have House Bill 679 by Chairman Carr. Do I hear a motion and a second? Have a motion and a second. Chairman Carr, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This is the BUI bill that we had last year, and the COVID kept us from moving it any further than where it was parked when COVID hit. What this does, this actually brings under codification the law the same offense of driving under the influence would be if you were boating under the influence. That's basically what it does.
Thank you, Chairman. Any questions or discussion? Representative Cochran.
Just had one quick question, Chairman Carr. Upon first conviction, you serve no less than 48 hours in jail. Is that? Am I interpreting that correct?
Yes, sir.
Correctly.
Uh-huh.
And that's the same as if you were driving right now and were convicted with the blood alcohol concentration of 0.20 or higher. That's what you would be sentenced to in a vehicle, and so you're just making that match.
Yeah, that matches exactly with the DUI. Yes, sir. That's
okay.
correct.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Question on the bill.
We have question called. Without objection, we will vote on House Bill 679. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 679 moves on to full.
Thank you, Chairman.
Next on our calendar, we have House Bill 398 by Chairman Boyd. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Boyd, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. House Bill 398 deals with water and wastewater authorities in in the state of Tennessee. It allows the authorities to increase their per diems from $100 to a maximum of $300. The bill is permissive, and it would put them in line with the utility districts in Tennessee.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on the bill? Without objection, we will vote on House Bill 398. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 398 moves on to full.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Next on the calendar, we have House Bill 1094 by Representative Griffey. Do I have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second. Representative Griffey, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. House Bill 1094 is a caption bill. I have two amendments, proposed amendments. Before I ask for motion and second on those, my intent here is to try to solve a problem. And I'm looking for this committee's input and insight. What's the best way to address an issue that has arisen regarding duck blind drawings in the TWRA and the Fish and Wildlife Commission? So what I would like to do is indicate to the committee that I do want a roll call vote, but I don't want it today. I'd rather get the input from this committee and see if we can fix this bill and make it a good bill, so I'm not sure I have enough support for it to pass right now. So I am asking for a motion and a second on both of my proposed amendments.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion on Amendment 1, which is drafting code 3995. Do I hear a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of House Bill Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 1094 with drafting code 3995, say aye. Opposed by like sign? The ayes have it. Amendment Number 1 goes on the bill. We have Amendment Number 2. Representative Griffey, do you have any comments on Amendment 2?
Amendment number 2 would just put it would limit, we would use the same duck blind drawing system for a one-year period until this committee may consider legislation or whatever. So that's all Amendment number 2 would do. And it's only for a one-year period, so if the commission or however it shakes out decides to do something different after that, they could do something different after that.
I have drafting code 4051. We've got a motion and a second on the amendment. Any discussion on Amendment Number 2? All in favor of Amendment Number 2 going on the bill, say aye. Opposed by like sign? The ayes have it. Amendment Number 2 goes on the bill. So as amended, would you just summarize what the bill does?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. The Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission and TWRA have proposed amending the rules to the duck blind drawing system. And I understand the arguments that they feel like that this is going to enlarge participation by a number of other hunters. I have got more emails on this issue than anything else and phone calls than any other legislation I've ever had. They're almost uniformly against. I would say it's probably 99 or 95 to 1 or 5% opposed to this provision. As part of the complaints by the duck hunters in my district, they also feel like that TWRA and the Wildlife Commission is not listening to the voice of the hunters and the people that do the hunting and fishing. So as a way to try to address that, currently the Fish and Wildlife Commission is made up of 13 members. They're all political appointees. And I think all of us being up here, you kind of know how the political system works, and the people that get appointed for political purposes, their constituency is the people who appoint them politically. It's not necessarily the citizens of Tennessee who they're supposed to be ultimately servants for. So what my bill does to try to strike a balance is that instead of, we would still have a 13-member Fish and Wildlife Commission, but there would be 7 political appointments. The governor would have 3, and the speaker and the lieutenant speaker would have 2 each. But we would have 6 elected members, 2 from East Tennessee, 2 from Middle Tennessee, and 2 from West Tennessee that are knowledgeable and experienced in wildlife management, harvesting practices. They are holders of Tennessee wildlife management licenses, and they would be voted upon by people who have hunting, fishing, and other Tennessee wildlife licenses, boating licenses. When I drafted the first amendment on 1094, I indicated that we would try to let the commission set up rules on how they want to have these elections, and the intent of that was to try to give them as much flexibility to do this. I'm sure you all may have seen the physical note on this. It's indicating it's going to cost them about $1 million of funds to do this. I was kind of a little bit floored and taken aback by that. I can't believe it would cost $1 million to maybe set up a box at every place that sells licenses, and for 30 days, people can fill out, you only get to vote once, but you fill out your name on the outside envelope, and you put your votes on the inside envelope and pin them in the box, and TWRA collects them after about 30 days, takes them out, counts them up, and we decide you're going to have 2 from East Tennessee, 2 from West Tennessee, and 2 from Middle Tennessee, and they would sit on the commission to be a voice of the people who do the hunting and fishing in the state and give them a voice. So that was the purpose of that. And then the Second Amendment was to simply say, look, there's been so much backlash and push on this duck blind drawing system. Let's hold off for a year. Let's let these citizen representatives get on the commission, let them be heard, and then let the commission vote how they want to proceed with this. I would submit we're just moving, the Fish and Wildlife Commission just moving a little too fast, at least for everybody in my district, and I would ask the committee to consider that. With that said, I don't know if there's anybody that wanted to testify or not. If they do, I think maybe now might be a good time for that.
Okay. We have a couple of members that have asked to speak on this. Representative Hurt, you're recognized. Oh, okay. Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question to the sponsored bill. You talked about taking the politics out. Help me understand, if you look like you put more politics in. Just help me understand that.
Representative Griffin.
Well, that may be your perspective, but right now, if you've got 13 members that are appointed and are political appointments, if you add public citizens that are elected, just like we get elected, I think you're adding they're going to answer to their constituents, the people who hold the hunting and fishing licenses. So I think it might be proven. It may not be the best solution. I know there's talk of other potential legislation to say, look, we're kind of not happy with the way the Fish and Wildlife Commission's operated. Maybe they ought to roll under one of the Tennessee agencies, the agriculture agency, because there are concerns about that. This was an attempt to try to strike a balance and solve this issue that has caused so much consternation with the duck hunters and fishermen in my district. So I submit it to you, to the honorable representative on that basis. So.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you. I can appreciate you trying to work this out, but I'm not for sure that principle that you just described, because you still got politics. You got the appointee politics, and then you got the community politics. And of course, when I look at the community politics, it's going to be a little different from the politics here. So, but you're creating more and more politics, in my humble opinion. That's just the way I feel about what you just explained, but I appreciate what you're trying to do, and thank you for your comment.
Chairman Halford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you mentioned a few minutes ago that we could set up a box at every place that's sold license. How are we going to verify that those that are putting their ballots in that box are do that? How do we the integrity of it, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
Representative Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Absolutely, Chairman Alford. If we're going to have election, we want to make sure they're free and fair. It's my understanding that under TWRA, each license they issue is they have a unique identifying number to a license that issue. So every Tennessee resident that holds a license can be verified with that unique number. And each person would only get to vote one time. If they hold like a fishing license, a boating license, say a commercial fishing license, they would still only get to vote one time. And then if we have concerns that maybe this might open up the voting process to people that are against hunting and fishing or something like that, I would look to this committee. I was trying to think about this last night. You know, maybe we have provisions in there that somebody has to have held a TWRA license for 10 years or more before they would be eligible to be a candidate. TWRA and the commission could, I think, set up a number of restrictions that make sure we have a balance. Because what we're looking for is input from the voters and boaters, people that have an interest in the way the wildlife management is run, because I'm hearing a lot of complaints that it just doesn't seem like the commission is really listening to the folks on the ground. So that's the intent of the legislation.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
And I understand about the license and things like that. I'm asking who is going to verify that license is good and in force and that he's.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Chairman Halford. I would think that you could have two envelopes. You could have an envelope and then the ballot inside the envelope. And on the outside of the envelope, the person writes their name, address, and their hunting fishing license number. TWRA would collect all the envelopes that are put into the ballot box at the end of the voting period. Bring them back. They're going to match up people's name and address with their identifying number, so everybody gets to vote once. If you get two or three envelopes with the same name and license number, then they're going to kick out those other three, or maybe all three, but they're only going to get to vote once. Once they verify they have that all these people are qualified to vote, then they'll open up the envelopes inside, and you've got a list for East Tennessee, vote 2 out of the 4 people. Middle Tennessee, vote 2 out of the 5 or 7 people, whatever. West Tennessee, vote 2 out of the 3 people that have put their name in. And the people that want to qualify would have to submit their names and meet the qualifications that the commission would come up with. So that was sort of my thinking, and I would think we might be able to do that a little cheaper than $1 million a year, so.
Chairman Hawford, any more?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Halsey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand what you're trying to do. I was just thinking, what would keep a whole bunch of PETA people from going out and buying licenses and stacking the ballot box?
Representative?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that question. That's a legitimate concern. And that's why I think if we made restrictions on who's be a qualified candidate, has to have held a TWRA license for 10 years or more, or something like that. And those are sort of the issues that I was hoping this committee might be able to think about, because we got some smart folks up here. I appreciate the honor of serving with each and every one of you all. And see, that's why I wanted to put this off for a couple of weeks or something. Let's see if this is something the committee is desirable to do in general with the concept of trying to get some public input to the commission, and then also the secondary issues whether we want to hold off the blind drawing system as proposed for at least one more year till we make changes to that.
Any more questions or comments from the committee? I do believe from what you've said and then what else I've learned that any kind of election like that would be coordinated, I'm sure, with the Secretary of State and his folks to get the proper rule in place to set it up, and that may be where the fiscal note came from. Yes, sir, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad you raised that point. That reminded me. That was my understanding and part of the concern from folks with the commission. It's the expense that might be doing it. Maybe a better way to do it would be to coordinate election for these TWRA commission elected people, to coordinate through our August election system that we normally have every 2 years or something like that. So it might reduce the expense and the burden that the Fish and Wildlife Commission and TWRA would have to go through. That's one of those issues that I sort of defer to the committee if they think if we're going to have it, if we're good with the concept, what's the best way to implement this concept? Is it to have elections through our county elections every August, every 2 years in August or something like that? So, or have it do it separately where they just put it in a box or something like that. So that's sort of why I wanted to defer this. And I don't know if anyone had asked to testify on this. If they have not, and I would, at this point, unless there's other questions, move that I be allowed to roll this bill 2-3 weeks and let me get with the members and see if I can work out any issues with the bill. And
we don't have anybody that specifically asked to testify on this particular bill. Representative Hurt, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I thought we had somebody going to testify, but I wanted to thank you for bringing it in, and I think these last 5-6 months, this has definitely been brought to the forefront. We've seen that we need to have more discussions, and I also appreciate the fact that you're recognizing that we do have concerns. We like the concept, but yet they're in allowing us to get our input on this and not just trying to do it too fast and seeing if we can get something that everybody is good with that would hear the voice a little more than our hunters and fishermen feel like they are now. So I just wanted to thank you for that, recognizing that and giving us time to have this discussion and bringing it to the forefront. So thank you.
Representative?
That's exactly my intent. Look, everybody can come up with an idea, but that may not be the best idea. And we've got so many smart people up here. If we sit down and think about this, if we're good with the concept, what's the best way to implement that concept? And so that was the intent. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank everybody on the committee. And with the committee and the chairman's, may I roll this for, do you know how long you're going to be open, or the Senate's going to be open, or?
We'll be open a while. Without objection, upon his request, we will roll this to 2 weeks, the calendar in 2 weeks. So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Griffey. Next, we have House Bill 667 by Representative Freeman. I hear a motion. Have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Representative Freeman, you are recognized on House Bill 667.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Committee. House Bill 667 has an amendment that makes the bill. So if I could motion and second on it.
We have a motion and a second on amendment. I'm looking for the number. This is amendment number 1, drafting code 3970.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. In any discussion? Without objection, we'll vote on amendment number 1. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment number 1 goes on House Bill, lost my number here, too many pages.
667.
667. Representative Freeman, you are recognized as amended.
Thank you, Chairman. So House Bill 667 is the Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy Bill. PACE financing is, or Property Assessed Clean Energy, is an innovative financing tool that allows for economic development. It requires a statewide authorization for municipalities to opt in. And so there's no mandate, and any local municipality will choose to opt in if they would like, and this bill just makes that a possibility.
Any questions for the sponsor? Representative, Chairman Hoffer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I believe this concept has been around for quite a while, and I've had some trouble coming to agreement with it. But my concern was that the city or the county that participated might have some liability there, that undue liability. So I'm satisfied now that that's not the case, and I believe this is a good bill to get derelict property back on the tax rolls and some other things. So I think it's a good bill, and I'm going to vote for it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any other discussion? We have question called. Without objection, we'll be voting on House Bill 667 as amended with drafting code 3970. All in favor say aye. Opposed by like sign. The ayes have it. House Bill 667 moves on to full.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Committee.
The next item we have on our agenda is House Bill 61 by Representative Darby. Do I have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second. Representative Darby, you are recognized at your seat. Can you check your microphone? Not hearing it. Okay. Okay. It's nobody's home.
Can y'all hear me now? All right. This bill rewrites the enforcement sections of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act passed in 1941 by deleting antiquated language and updated provisions to reflect current practices. Current law places a responsibility of enforcement with the courts and district attorneys, while this bill places a responsibility with the department to enforce civil penalties and suspending or revoking license under the UAPA. This bill deletes the repealer section of the Produce Safety Act. Otherwise, it will end July the 1st, 2021.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any discussion on House Bill 61? Hearing none, we'll vote on House Bill 61. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed by like sign. The ayes have it. House Bill 61 moves on to full. Thank you, sir. Yes, Representative Shaw. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I believe this was this representative's first bill, and we didn't give him near enough grief to let him get out of here like this. So.
Am I hearing a motion to reconsider?
Motion to reconsider.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say basically what the chairman said. He thinks he got off easy, but you got a long ways to go, my friend.
They're still full. They're still full committee. We have House Bill 322 by Representative Hodges that has been rolled for 2 weeks. That was item number 7. Next item on our calendar is item number 9, House Bill 764 by Leader Gant. Do I have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second. Oh, Representative Hicks, I'm sorry, is carrying this bill. House Bill 764. Representative Hicks, you are recognized.
This is a pretty straightforward administration bill from the Department of Agriculture, and I'll just read through it. The original soil conservation statute in Tennessee was enacted in 1939 and has been seldom amended since then. This bill repeals parts 1 and 3 of the Soil Conservation Act as it is articulated 1939 language. The second section changes the name of the State Soil Conservation Committee to the Soil and Water Conservation Commission, and the name of each soil conservation district to a Soil and Water Conservation District. These name changes reflect the focus on soil erosion, reduction, and the preservation of improvement of our state's waters. It introduces the term agricultural industry representatives as persons eligible to be appointed to the commission by the governor. The powers and duties of the commission are revised to include an emphasis on collaboration and improvements to Tennessee water quality by reducing soil erosion. The election process for the election of district soil conservation supervisors is codified, and the process for filing vacancies on district boards is streamlined. The duties of the districts are modified to include an annual financial report to the commission and place more emphasis on soil erosion and its effects on water. And the power to issue land use regulations is removed from the districts. As I said, it's a pretty straightforward bill. It sort of works on how the commission is elected. It sort of works on how the supervisors are appointed and how they play a role in helping our waters of the state. So if there's any major questions, John McClarklin from the Agriculture Department is here to answer those.
Thank you, Representative Hicks, and I do believe this is your first bill to present. Is that correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir, it is.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sponsor, what county you represent now? What county is it that you represent?
Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Washington County.
Is this for Washington County? You keep saying it's straightforward. I'm trying to figure out, is this only for Washington County?
Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, sir. It's for the waters. It connects the waters and the soil for the whole state of Tennessee.
Well, I know you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you're carrying this for Leader Gant, but I'm still trying to understand what you mean. Can you repeat what you just said about the bill? Can you explain that again for us? Because I can't. I don't get that, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. I will repeat.
Please don't do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm fine.
Representative Halsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to say I knew Representative Hicks. We went to the same church together when he was about 4 years old. Mm-hmm. It took him 45 years to get here, but I'm glad he made it.
Thank you, Representative. Any other discussion on the bill?
Motion on the bill.
We have a question called. Without objection, we'll be voting on House Bill 764. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed by like sign. The ayes have it. House Bill 764 moves on to full.
Thank you.
At this point, I believe that is all the business that is before us on our regular calendar. I have one item that, a personal order that I got a little out of order that I would like to mention. This is just something that I'm going to try to do every committee meeting just to shed a little light for the public on some of our valuable resources we have in the state. Cumberland Mountain State Park near Crossville boasts several miles of hiking trails, maintains 35 rustic cabins, a fabulous restaurant, numerous campsites, and offers various recreational facilities, including an Olympic-sized swimming pool, as well as the Bear Trace Golf Course, designed by golfer Jack Nicklaus. The park began as part of the Greater Cumberland Homesteads Project and was constructed by the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Works Progress Administration. The CCC arrived in the area in 1934 and began the construction of Bird Creek Dam, effectively creating the 50-acre Bird Lake. The dam is constructed of native sandstone, commonly called crab orchard stone. At a height of 28 feet and length of 319 feet, the dam is the largest masonry project ever completed by the CCC. This particular lake is special to me because it's where I learned to fly fish. I worked as a park naturalist, actually seasonal interpretive specialist in the late 80s at Cumberland Mountain State Park under manager Andy Lyon, and came to really love that area of our state. I grew up in West Tennessee and had never been to East Tennessee before taking that job. So I fell in love with that area and like I said, learned to fly fish from one of the campers that was staying in one of the rustic cabins for a couple of weeks, and met a lot of really neat folks at that park, visitors and personnel. So I would implore you to go by there when you have a chance. It's near Crossville and in our Speaker's District, and it's just an absolutely wonderful place that we have to enjoy in our state. So without objection, we will stand adjourned.
I grew up fly fishing in East Tennessee, Hiwassee and the
Yeah.
whole